Hi everyone, and welcome to this short molecular devices video. Today I'm going to show you how to set up a DNA quantitation experiment on our software SoftMax Pro using the Spectradrop microvolume microplate on a microplate reader. This is what you can get. You can run up to 64 samples together and measure them at 3 different wavelengths, for example, 260, 280, 230. Here you can see the 3 values for each samples. The table will show you your samples, the dilution factor if present, the absorbance value corrected at 260 specific for DNA, the values at 280, 230 for proteins and contaminants, and the ratio to check for purity of your DNA. At the end, the final calculated concentration. Let me show you step by step how you can obtain this in very few clicks. But first, let's see quickly what the Spectradrop is. The Spectradrop is a microvolume detection plate that can be used for DNA, RNA, and protein quantitation for absorbance but also fluorescent assays. It comes in 2 density configurations, 24 wells and 64 wells per plate, and 2 volume options, 2 microliters or 4 microliters, allowing you to select the configuration ideal for your needs. It is composed of an holder that fits in the microplate reader drawer, the sample slide for 24 or 64 samples, and the cover slide with fixed path length. It is reusable and very easy to clean, and most important, because the path length is fixed, there is no need of a calibration curve, so you can directly run your unknown samples. So now let's move again on the software SoftMax Pro and see how we can set up a DNA quantitation experiment from a new document. To create a new document, I can click here in the top left or in the application menu beside New. Because we want to quantify DNA using the Spectradrop plate, we recommend to use one of our predefined protocols from the protocol library. So we go in Protocol Manager, Protocol Library. Here you can find around 200 ready-to-use protocols. So for our purpose today, we are going to choose Spectradrop microvolume microplate and absorbance DNA quantitation. As you can see, when you open our predefined protocols, you have a first introduction with information and explaining you the protocol. Then, here on the left, you can see the 2 configurations, 24 wells or 64 wells. In the example before, I showed you the 64 well configuration, while now, for example, we can set up a read with the 24. So in this case, you can ignore this part, or we can delete this section, clicking and delete section. Also, in this protocol is present a first plate where you read your endpoint measurement, and the spectrum if you want to check for purity, for example, of your DNA. In case you don't need, you can delete this section as well. First thing to do now is to set the acquisition setting. So we click in Acquisition Settings. We double check that this absorbance first, endpoint, and the wavelengths are the corrected that we want to use. Then we move on plate type, and we make sure that we are using the Spectradrop 24 well low plate. Read area, we make sure to keep this area because it's specific for the Spectradrop plate. Path check we don't need, shake we don't need, speed read we don't need. More setting, we recommend that the first time you run your Spectradrop plate, you tick the box show pre-read optimization options and you run the alignment of the plate. So you are sure that your Spectradrop plate is aligned with your specific reader. Once you've done this the first time, you can avoid to run it again. So now the software and the instrument is ready to read. At the moment, I am in simulation mode, so I don't have an instrument connected, so I can generate some random data to show you. Once the data are generated, we can go in the template editor and give a name to the wells. We can have, for example, samples all distributed around here. So we have to select the particular configuration of the cover slide that we use, so the 1 millimeter for the 4 microliter sample or the 0.5 millimeter for the 2 microliter sample. Then we select series, and for example, we say that we have one sample in each position. To add a plate blank, we select the remaining wells and we click on plate blank. Because we choose the 1 millimeter cover slide, we can delete this section. And having a look at the table, you can see we have our sample. The dilution factor, in this case, we didn't apply. We have the value at 260, 280, 230, and the ratios, and the final concentrations calculated here. When you run the Spectradrop and this particular assay, you have to make sure to enter the concentration factor below, corresponding to the buffer where your sample, in this case DNA, is diluted. In this case is 50. You can change, double-click in this here. And if you go into the introduction section, you have some information about this coefficient. Thanks for your time. I hope this video was useful to understand how easy it is to set up a DNA quantitation assay using our Spectradrop plate.